We are okay.
All right. Good night. Good night. Good night. Welcome to the Fatherhood Think Tank, your 90 minutes of father conversation. Um, have a good one for you tonight. I am Dr. Ron, the curator of the Fatherhood Think Tank. We have the fathers here tonight. We're going to have a very interesting conversation about the talk a father needs with his father. It's going to get intense a little, maybe, and maybe even get a little question. I've had quite a few conversations over the last couple of days about this direct conversation. So I said, hey, let's make this the conversation tonight on the Think Tank. I want to also welcome our fathers here, let them introduce themselves, and we get into this conversation.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? My name is Travis Sands, CEO of Our Chance Enterprise. Also a father of two awesome boys. One is 13 and one is 9, and I'm here. That's all I can say.
Okay, welcome tonight.
All right.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Or good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7 young adults, 3 young women, 4 young men, a granddaughter, and a grandson. So it's always a pleasure to be here.
Good evening. My name is Frank Gaines, Dr. Frank Gaines. I'm a semi-retired educator and who dabbles in fatherhood with young folk, I guess I could say. I have 4 adult children between 35 and 44 years old. I have 5 grandchildren and a 6th grandchild on the way.
All right, thank you guys. Welcome tonight. I'm sure some other people may come on, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing when I think about actually preference to this conversation, yesterday I was sitting in a car speaking to my dad about man things that you need to speak when you're a man. Sometimes we need to speak to our dads about man things, and I was talking to him about he's been away for a couple weeks. Like when he said he'll see you next time. He'll see you next time. I've been away for a couple weeks traveling, and we was just catching up on travel and what was going on, and we was having a conversation. I was telling him about a conversation I was having, and that conversation was a conversation about a young man who was a dad was reaching out to a young man, like a son, when he was turning 17, 18 years old. And when the dad reached out, he wrote a comment kind of like, hey, I'm proud of you, son. You are what you become, and the ball is in your court. So I was explaining that to him, and then in the conversation that I was having about the person about this, they kind of brought it back and kind of said like they read the comments that the son had wrote or the father had wrote, because the son had showed the other parent the comment that the father had wrote, and then the other parent called the father and then said, oh, you got to say something different and what have you, and so on and so on. So the father then wrote something back to that son, something probably a little bit more, like joining. And then the son wrote back and a comment as I was speaking to the parent about what that father wrote. I told him that the son's response to me was disrespectful. And that's just me, because the son wrote back, I appreciate all you can do, but if I want to get in contact with you, if I need you for anything, I'll let you know. And I was like, yo, that to me was disrespectful. So I was checking with my dad to see, was I wrong just putting my opinion about something on there? And because the whole conversation was about something that was going on with the son, and I suggested to that other parent that, hey, maybe he need to talk to his dad about this. And then that lended us into this conversation here. And I thought about, I tried to explain to the parent that the reason why a lot of sons, when they become fathers, need to talk to their dads is because dad is a man who is similar to you, maybe not the same as you, but have your genes and traits, who could probably identify with what you're feeling, how you're feeling about something, and give you their honest opinion, good, bad, or ugly. I'm not saying that what they would say is the right thing and anything is the wrong thing, but good and bad, ugly, because sometimes that guidance that we need from a father is sometimes and sometimes it might not be a father. We might have to get it from a stepfather. We might have to get it from an uncle. We might have to get it from a grandfather. We may, it's all other places, but the opportunity to have your father to ask, and even if it's going to be a messed up message that the father give you, right? I think about that and I say, well, even if it's messed up, you as an intellectual man is not now having a conversation with another man, and so you can disagree. You can challenge his thought, and it also make you challenge your thought of what you're thinking. And so that's the part of it that was so important, that I thought that this would be a good conversation for us to have tonight, really looking into this conversation, because I think in the discussion with the parent, I was explaining to, like, it won't be this authoritative father-son conversation they're having, because if you're a man and you haven't been raised by your dad, you're gonna let him know that, right? He can't talk, he can't son you, as I would say. He can't son you because I ain't no son right now, right? You would talk to me like a man, and then we can get to a level of that. So I wanted to bring that conversation tonight and see, what does that conversation look like? So that's why I came up with the talk that fathers need to have with his father. Normally we have the talk that fathers need to have with their sons as a mod. So today I'm reversing that, and also and going to ask fathers, have you had a talk with your father, and about what came out of that conversation? Where did that put you? Where did that go? And where can it might help somebody who's listening, who might be right now on that fence about how they should handle this conversation with their father.
Wow. Okay. I guess y'all want me to dive in first? Shoot, because it's so honestly, this is something I'm very familiar with. I mean, as you all know, with my story and everything like that. Also, it's funny because this is a common thread when it comes down to young boys getting reintroduced. I mean, I guess getting introduced to their fathers when they become men. And I mean, basically, there's a lot of fight and argument, and there's a lot of stuff that goes behind it. Because let's be real, like when it comes down to women taking care of their kids, they tend to push the father away, and the father don't have a fight, or he's not ready to even be a dad. But with all that being said, having a conversation to your dad, like as I met my father, I feel like that conversation, like what can you say to me? Is honestly for me asking him to say something to me. It's like I don't really expect anything that he can say to me, but tell me I guess what happened. But for me, I never really expected to really hear anything, so I never really got disappointed for whatever I'm going to hear. So honestly, I take face value. Like yes, my dad is in my life now after 2 years. I mean, after what 40 years of my life, he has been in my life for now 2 years of that 40. And I'm still like, and as I look at him, I'm looking at myself, but I'm looking at how he engages with me when it comes down to just the action. And because you can use any words, you can say what you want to say, but the reality is when you grew up, you're now not looking at what you say to me, but actually how you respond to the things that we how you move when you move it. Like, I'm not looking for you to be perfect, but I'm looking for you to be who you are, and let me evaluate this whole situation, because you can never like have a one conversation that's gonna make up for all the years that you've been missing. Hope I sum that up as much as I can.
Yeah, yeah. Let me, Travis. Let me ask you something.
What's up?
And I always ask these things to look. What have you found that been the most beneficial in the last 2 years of this engagement with your father? What have you
Um,
found?
I mean, what I've looked at was the pros and the cons. Like, like who his person is. Like, I say person because yes, he's my biological father, but I've also been very aware of who he is, the pros and cons. So like I look at him and I look at this man that's a good heart. Like, when I say a good heart, like, he's a giver, and that's something that I relate to in me. And I also look at how all the good, what the good and the bad of what he's done. So for example, he's 60 something years old. For me, I'm looking at having a good heart. Like, how did that how much is too much, you know what I mean, of a good heart, and how did that benefit him, you know what I mean? And I look at it, and I was like, everything that his life is like, from giving to the homeless downtown. Like, I'm looking at certain things, how he's committed to, his religion, and how his friends speak of him. Like, I look at the surrounding of it all. But to be honest with you, like, as we had that conversation, and even my mom was pushing, and it's weird because my mom was pushing for my dad to have a more deeper conversation with me. But you cannot ask a man to give you something that he may not be able to give at that moment. So I never really, because when you look for that, like, just for me, I would never look for that, because until it's time, until God gives it the opportunity to say, okay, it's time for you to really have that conversation. Because I as a kid, yes, you're going to force, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, because you're not emotionally you're not emotionally mature to handle the truth. Sometimes I'd rather just wait until the time comes where you're able to just like see the real, because people can talk. Listen, I've seen people talk all day, but your actions speak loud for me. Like, I'm more of like, what are you doing? Like, not what you can say to me, because what you say to me, it don't mean nothing. It really don't mean nothing. Like, literally. They really don't. And the funny part is, I just watched something recently with Bow Wow. I don't know if y'all seen that. Bow Wow had I guess, I forgot what it's called. Building the bed, something. He has almost like a little documentary where his dad came into his life. Because his dad chose the bottle first. The dad chose the bottle, and then now, of course, Bow Wow is famous and everything like that. And he basically was like, he didn't want to have that conversation with his dad, but they forced to have that conversation, and that actually started to heal him. Because some people get stuck into being a boy. But when you become a man, like, you need to have that conversation with your dad. You need to have a conversation with a man to help you transition into like who you want to become for real. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm taking from what you're saying is that it's one day at a time with you right now. But you have had 2 years to go. And let me just add my professional opinion in there. I mean, I know that we're just talking, but what is found, and I think I also said to this parent when I was talking about that situation, is that men, uninfluenced of anybody else, right? As if her son would have responded on his own the way he wanted to, he wouldn't have wrote anything back to his dad, right? Because that's what that's how, because what I feel like is what you're describing a little bit, Travis, is we have to wait to have what we're going to say. We're not going to come with a whole bunch of, rhetoric and all kind of things. I'm either going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, or I won't tell you anything at all. And that's the difference sometimes between men and women. Women want to hear, even though they might not want to hear it. They want you to tell them every bit of it. But some things are not even left untold. The question is, where do we, I know for many times when working with men, the question is, where are we going from here? Can't do nothing about the past, right? But where are we going from here? Now, if you're going to be like, if you saying you want to keep it like the past, then I can understand that, and I can respectfully as a man move on. And then I say, hey, I did my just due. But if you still needing time to, because I think a lot of times people forget that as much as we always argue, and this is my slogan, as much as we argue that children need their parents, especially kids, the kids need their fathers. The fathers need their kids as equal. So imagine now getting into your age of 60, and he doesn't need you like, oh, he's sick. He needs you to fulfill the key thing that every man wants to be able to have, is that legacy. Even if it's bad, even if it's, listen, this is a bad legacy, but the intent of understanding that this is the legacy that I have, and my son or my daughter, follows the idea of a legacy that we run by. So I just wanted to not leave that to a thing to say, well, somebody could be listening to say, well, he ain't really saying that. He didn't, and because so often for us as men, people are looking for a immediate answer, and I think as men we take our time. We are analytical. We are rational. We think about what it happens, and then we may say, okay, now this is the time, or this is the place. What we do see presently, I think, in our time, we see a lot of highly emotional men who are very reactive instead of, reactive from, like, if you hit them, they got to hit you back right immediately. Like they can't say, man, hey, why you hit me? Okay, I understand. All right, let's move on. Let me say, as we get in here, let me welcome two more of our prestigious fathers that are coming in tonight. I see we have Big Brother Von Howard and E10E, 10E. I wanted to say Ed, but go ahead, guys. Introduce yourself for the night. If you don't know our topic, the topic of the night is the talk a father needs with his father.
All right. Good evening, gentlemen. I hope you all have had a wonderful day so far. Von Howard, father of two, 17-year-old and a 15-year-old, married for 18 years. Glad to be on and to be engaged with this particular conversation. Though my camera might be off for a second, I'm and really down for this conversation. So I hope you all have a good afternoon.
All right, welcome, Bon.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ed Tenney. I'm transitioning to a single father of three. I've got a grandbaby. What else? I think that's about it. That's all I got.
So what? As you guys come in, I'm sure maybe Dr. Gaines or Lightborn will go next, or maybe one of y'all might feel. I was just going around and asking the question of the conversation that you have had with your father, our conversation, if you did have a conversation with the conversation you would like to have with your father, in reference to you being a father, or what it means for you to be this kind of father based on, whatever kind of conversation you have with your own father.
You know what? That's a good question, because I have a relationship with my father. He passed away. I think he passed away before the millennium, like between, in 2000. That's when he passed away. we had a pretty good relationship. We had a very engaging relationship. And so when I was listening to you talking about the young man, and you said you felt that his response was like a disrespect to his father, I didn't hear it. I just kind of disagreed with that because what I heard was a disconnect. And so what you heard is disrespect. What I actually heard as disconnect. And so it's like he's still and both of them, because we can't, I think we are very big on, and particularly in our culture, we're very big on saying if you don't know the past, you're doomed to repeat it, right? And then totally disregarded in this conversation is kind of like hypocritical. So I don't want to in this young man's situation disregard the closure that he may need and trying to give something to somebody that gave nothing to you. Now, I'm not sure if that's the situation, but if even the Bible saying a man reap what he sowed. And so if you're not the type of man that's about closure and closeness, and so you don't know nothing about that parental intimacy, and then you grow to a certain maturity and feel like you want to engage in it now, but you never really sowed it, you understand, in your fatherhood. And so now you may be at an age where you appreciate life and see life a little bit more different. So now you may want to engage your son in that type of intimacy that you never sold into. And so now he's reaping exactly what he sowed because he was never emotionally engaging with his son. I'm not saying that's in the situation, but I'm just giving a.
Well, listen, Lightborn. This is why. Listen, let me say this again.
Okay.
The reason why this think tank is so important, right? And I tell somebody this because somebody was saying you got so many opinions and you think you know so much sometimes. And I say no. Listen, even if I do, I may have an opinion, but I also have an ear to listen. And I agree 100%. It may not. I use the word disrespect because I'm so advocate for fathers, no matter what they did, right?
Right.
But what you're saying makes so much better sense. The idea of it being a disconnect, and a disconnect is not knowing how to do. So I just want to say this is. I want to remind people that the reason we have this is not to argue and fuss and say this right. We have actually have the opportunity for you to listen to our different opinions. And on top of that, be able to evaluate it within yourself and use that to understand that there's so many points of views for something we may perceive and something we may see, that the more voices that we hear and the more we analyze, the more we process it, the better we outcome to deal with other situations and situations like that. So I just wanted to point that out because as soon as you said it, and you say you disagree, and you said what your response was, I completely agree. Now that I think about the case, that is not a disrespect, it's a completely disconnect. And so I love that. I love that about this platform. And if you have, and I'm sure that the fathers here can contest to it, that we hear things here in our discussions, in our discourse or whatever, that allows our minds to be better prepared, not just for us, but for our families, for our children, and for our community. So I'm going to take a different approach of that because I heard Lightborn say something in this conversation that we had, and this is where meta communication is important among fathers, among family, among people. So I just wanted to point that out. So it just was profound. It came on my heart to immediately say you're absolutely right, and I agree that my assumption, my feeling was that, but you pinpointed right on the head, and that's what I love about you, brother.
I appreciate that, fam.
So Ron, just as a because I just got on, are we talking about personal experiences specifically?
Well, right. Right now, I told a story about the parents a parent I was talking to, but right now I'm asking the fathers to talk about an experience that they had a conversation with their father and how, what was that and how was it feeling and what was it like, and so just to understand, so people can understand what it meant to talk to your father or have a conversation or not, or not have a conversation and what it felt. So that's what we're kind of
okay. And the reason I ask is because I guess this particular subject, particular for me, so not knowing until it was literally later in life, like I was probably a junior, senior in high school, that my father had a drug addiction. And the only reason why I do that is because, of course, he got incarcerated, and had to go to a home for it. I think for me, being a father now, and I've tried to have the conversation with him, but I don't know how. I think he feels guilty in a sense for missing a good portion of my life. But yet and still, I always, even to this day, view him as dad. So, or daddy. I mean, even to this day, as a 46-year-old man, I'm his only child. So the things that I see him, he of course is remarried, has developed another family, who, we're good, but I never had the closest that he's showing to that extended family, to myself, nor I feel to my children. And I find myself saying, despite whatever goes on in my life, I'm going to always be there for my children because I didn't necessarily have that, at least in the home. Now I have uncles. Of course, I have male role models that I can go to, but to have that direct connection, even when trying to pull it, even to this day, has been somewhat of a difficult task. And I've asked the question, like, why? Even asking, his siblings, my mom, like, what's up? I think that I'm a pretty good child. I thought that, of course, growing up, you're going to have some mischievous ways, but for the most part, I think that I developed into a pretty decent adult. But at the end of the day, I still need dad. Like, hey, Pops, let's sit and watch the game together. I don't necessarily want to hear how everybody else is doing outside of the relationship that we have together. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, that connection, for whatever reason, I think it's somewhat of a thing of guilt for him, that he thinks that I may feel a certain way, but at the end of the day, regardless of whatever happened, you're my dad, and that I'm gonna love you regardless. And I think that for me, trying to pull those strings it can be tiresome, but I don't want to give up because I don't want him to think that, I'm basing this all of, on what's happened in the past, which I really didn't even know about. You know what I'm saying? Nobody can come to me and tell me that my dad had done wrong. You know what I'm saying? That's just, I always saw, he may not have always been there, but my dad was there. You know what I'm saying? As far as in my eyesight, I knew that if I called him, maybe he picked up. I literally just went off on him. He called me for my birthday, and he actually moved out of the city, but he would always have his phone going to do not disturb. And I was like, I don't care who it is. My number you need to pick up my phone call when I call you. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I never know what's going to happen. You're in a whole nother state, in a whole nother city. But if I call you, even if it's just a chit chat, don't send it straight to voicemail. He's like, oh, well, his thing was, I don't like robocalls or whatever the case may be. I said, you need to change your settings. You need to go to wherever you need to go to, change those settings, because when I call, I was straight up with him. When I call, it's for a reason. Or I just want to just call to check up on you, to make sure you breathing. You know what I'm saying? Whatever the case, because we do not talk often, but when we do talk, I try to use those times to for as long as I can. Like, hey, I don't care what else going on around outside the circle. Right now, we're in our circle. So that's what I would say. So I find myself with my children being extremely, almost overbearingly connected with them, from birth. As soon as they came out, they got together. First night, they slept on my chest. You know what I'm saying? They weren't with mommy. They were with me. So that's the connections that I've been able to establish with my children, with the hopes of, wow, I wish that I had that from my dad. So just to kind of give y'all a little oversight with that.
Vaughn, let me just say this really quick. Then I want to get Johnny introduce himself. Vaughn is point. I just want to highlight that Vaughn is showing us the example what I mean when you are a son, but you also a man, and you talk to your father like another man. And that's a lot of times the dilemma that sometimes that happens in this conversation, because now you telling him, listen, like you would talk to any like you would talk to a grown, you know, you actually talking to him like you like your father would be talking to his son. Listen, when my phone ring, you write down my son Vaughn, and I need to pick up 911. Put that in my as the code, so you don't have to worry about that. But I hear you, Vaughn. I think that you're right. I think that the big thing is he does probably feel some guilt, the guilt of what he didn't give you. And you said something that was so key there about this idea of when y'all get together, he talk about everybody else, right? Right? Because those are the positive things that he can like share, because he thinks maybe so much, maybe I'm just throwing, he may be feeling that if he says stuff about y'all, it's all going to be negative because he still feel negative about it. So he wants to talk about the positive things. So the positive thing to say, oh, you know, your brother did this and you know, I did this and that. And it's kind of like, I'm hearing you, but it doesn't change. It doesn't change. And I hear it. It's a positive way to say, keep a positive. But I think that the issue is what, you know, you might be pinpointing on it, that thing of holding on to that, the guilt of not being there for you when he should have.
So well, how do you, I would say like when he goes that way, like to talk about others, I politely say in some form of fashion, I make it known, I really don't want to hear about them. I really don't care. To be totally honest with you.
Then you be the father.
But Ron, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna let Gaspar go ahead and introduce himself. I'm sorry, Johnny A. Gaspar, Esquire, extraordinaire. Introduce yourself, and then I'm gonna say something I picked up on Bond.
Wow, what an intro! Appreciate that, gentlemen. Good afternoon, everybody. Johnny Gaspar, father of two. Grateful to be on as usual. Great topic. I definitely wanted to join in on this because I have an experience to share with y'all as well with my dad, and how that was. So I definitely thank y'all for this opportunity, and I'll go ahead and let that light burn talk come vibe before I give my experience.
Okay, now right now I'm playing a make-believe therapist. Certified. And when you called your father and you actually put a demand on him about when you guys spending time together. And what I love about that, what you essentially be saying is, I need you to be present. And so I think the trauma of him being absent actually made you, and that's good because most people don't really know what they need. Most people don't have the guts to ask for what they need. And so essentially what you ask them to do, I need you to be present. If I don't need nothing else, I don't need no money, I don't need whatever. I just need you to be present because of his absence. And so to put a demand on that presence now, and I know he know that, not even if he didn't know it intellectually, he know it instinctively. And I think that not so much that he can respect that you ask him, but he can appreciate. And we got to understand that. And I'm like, you know, appreciation is greater than respect. And so I think for men, I think we always, because it's a common thing for us to always talk about respect is the highest form of interaction when it comes to men. But I'm like, no, appreciation is. And it took me a while to be a father, a husband, and to understand that, yes, my family, we get to points where we feel like our family respect us. But where our lowest points are is, do they appreciate us? And that's when I realized that, I'll be damned. Appreciation is greater than respect, and that's what you ask for in that request to your dad, especially when y'all spend time together, because it's not so much the respect going on, but you want him to appreciate, you understand, who you guys and what you guys mean to each other. I mean, that's just my make-believe therapist thing, but go ahead.
Yeah, and just back off of that. Like I stated, for a good at that time, when did he leave? So at least 35 years of my life, my dad has always been at least at arm's length if I needed to go to him. Even if I didn't necessarily talk to him, I knew where I can go. I just pop up at the house. So this one particular time happened to pop up at the house. He's like, "Yeah, son, we ready to leave. Yeah, we're moving." I said, "Okay. Well, when are y'all moving?" I just happened to go by the house. Yeah, we're leaving tomorrow. I was like, okay. And from, again, 35 to 40, 44, 45, I had not seen my dad in person in that amount of time, in almost 9 years. Now, let it be known he had the sporadic conversations over the phone. So, like, I was literally like grasping for him to be a part. Like, dude, I don't care what happened, you're still my dad. You know what I'm saying? You know, we often say that the woman will push the son out. No, my daddy pushed me out, and from inception. Let me put it that way. If you think about it, so my old boy pushed me out, and then my mama got me, and then she pushed me out. So, those types of things that, like I said, my uncles, his brothers have been very, very extremely instrumental in my life because he was dealing with the disease, and I'm gonna call it that. Um, and I I have a very good connection with them, but at the end of the day, maybe there could be some envy because I have that connection with them, but I need him to understand that regardless of the fact you're my father and nobody else's but mine, and I want you to understand that though I take traits from his siblings, um, I am his. So I try to put that in to my children's head, so that when they have, specifically my son, that when he has his hopefully when I have grandchildren, that I could be the light for him, and then he could be the light into his child, so that they understand that I'll, no matter what, I'll always be there for 'em. So that's my end on that one.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Brother Howard. A lot of people will be reluctant to talk about those type of things, and for us as men to be able to share that with each other, like I always believe, iron sharpen iron. And when you hear about somebody's situation, it helps you to realize that, oh, so there are other people like that, that's much like
Yeah.
myself. So you don't feel alone, in your situation. But with me, my dad was always in the house. Fortunately, he didn't have. I would say he didn't have that disease, but he had a different one, but it wasn't that one. And for him, and for me growing up, I'm the oldest of four. So, me and my dad always butt heads from the time I was a little kid. I just felt he wasn't being the type of man or husband what my mama needed. And that is crazy when you're a child thinking that your mom is being ignored by the man who's called to be your father in the house. Because I also was raised by my grandmother and my grandfather. So I think I saw that relationship and expected my father to be similar to how my grandfather was. And these are my maternal parents, my maternal grandparents. So I don't know if that's why I had a problem with him, but we constantly butted heads. And I think, like when I left to college, especially, I rarely ever talked to my dad. I would call home, talk to my mom all the time, and then she'd say, "Well, your daddy here." Well, I said, "Oh, I got to go to class, or I got to go do something." It was always a reason to allow me to get off the phone in that moment, so I didn't have to communicate with him, and which was bad. But at the time, I didn't. Like I said, it was just me and the relationship we had. And then I think in my junior year of college, my roommate's father died. And I was like, oh. And the way he reacted to the loss of his dad made me like, okay, well, I still got mine in my life. Maybe I might want to change how this is and be different as far as that relationship is concerned. And it really changed how I started to look at him. I think that moment helped me to see that he had some value, even though I didn't necessarily see it. The fact that he was present, because so many of my friends when I was in college, talked about not having their dad present. So I was like, yeah, he was there, but my dad didn't come to my baseball games. He didn't come to my basketball games. He was in the house, but he wasn't a dad that you would want to be involved. That I was just mad because the man wasn't there for me, in my opinion. You got me? So when I started to see this change, and I said, okay, so the change ain't gonna be him. I gotta make it. So I remember so vividly. I was talking to him on the phone, and at the end of the conversation, I said, I love you. And when I tell you the other side, the other end of the line went quiet, you could have heard a pin drop, a mouse run across the phone line. It was that quiet. So I thought the phone had disconnected or something. We wasn't even on a cell phone then. We was on a landline. So I thought the phone might have cut off. So I said, Dad, you there? He said, yeah, I'm here. I said, okay. You heard what I said? He said, yeah, I heard you. Okay, good. All right, you take care. And that ended that conversation. So I was like, oh, okay. So that ain't something he used to, clearly. So I go home. I don't know if it was a Christmas or whatever break that we had. And I see him, and I just remember when I'm leaving, because I do see him, we hug or whatever. But I remember when I'm leaving again to go back on the plane, I hug him and I say, I love you. And again, the hug is there. We are embraced, and he doesn't say anything back. I was like, did you hear me? He said, yeah, I hear you, son. I said, okay. I said, so do you love me too? And he finally said, yeah, I love you. I said, okay. But it was one of those things where, again, it was hard pulling it from him. And then when I went back to school, I think my senior year, I would call, and now I would say, okay, but where daddy at? So I'll talk to him on the phone, and I would end it with I love you. And slowly but surely, I started to get that response back. But it took a while for him to eventually get there. And I think like now when we talk, I asked him questions about some of the choices he made as a young father and stuff of that nature. And when I saw the topic, we said the question, having a conversation with your dad, it was ideal because I had to ask him, like, why did you make these choices? Then he talks about the choices he saw his father make. And I was like, oh, okay. So this was something that you learned. This was the mindset you had. And so that helped me to better understand who he was, because now the man that I know, is a different man. He's grown up. He has a different mindset in reference to his presence here on earth, what it means. He talks about forgiveness and understanding that life, we all make mistakes, and how do you change? How do you be better for your children now that you are, you've gone through and learned a lot of things about life? So I see a different man today, to the point where I recognize, listen, he just made some mistakes. He wasn't the best person in refereeing because he didn't learn from the best person, because his dad wasn't very involved. His dad was living somewhere else while he was being raised by his mom. So it was one of those things where it helped me to better understand who he was. So I just knew that, much like Vaughn, when I became a father, I was going to be all in. My kids were tired of me at their games, tired of me at their events in school, to the point so much that people saw me more than they saw their mama. They would call me from the school to deal with them before they call their mama. Or the kids would call, or the teachers would call. So that's the relationship I wanted to have with my kids, because I didn't have that, much like Von's experience. So, and I think from that perspective, when my kids see him today, they're like, so Papa wasn't around like that, Dad? I like, nope, he sure wasn't. He was very distant, but he's different today. So the time when he's there with them and he does see them, he all up. He want to be hugging all of them, and at times gets on my nerves, because to me that's unfair. But like Bob said, how come you wasn't giving that to me? How come you wasn't coming to my events? But again, we grow and we learn, and like most men, we understood that they didn't know any better because they weren't taught any better. But we are now in a time frame where I thank God that we're exposed to people like you, Ron, and exposed to people like Brother Lightboard, who can share with us why being a father and being involved in our kids' lives makes us better men, and in turn we are now more in touch with our feelings, quote unquote, when it comes to our children. And that's where I'm at with it.
Johnny, let me say this, because I think that as I listen to both you and Vaughn speak, if you guys proved to me my theory that I found out, that in a conversation I had with my father, he told me and my sister, he said that you two guys are the best people I know, and you have taught me. He told me, because again, me and my sister are born 11 months, 11, 12 months apart, something like that. Her birthday in November, mine in April. So a little bit that time. And he was a teenager. So he had 2 kids as a teenager. He has told us in these days that what I think both you and Vaughn has had to do is be men to show him how he needs to be a father. And I can show evidence that he is a much far better father to our youngest sibling. He couldn't be a father to us because he was a kid himself. He did what he could. To my middle sister, he had a lot of other stuff going on, even though he was in the house. And I'm bringing that point that he was in the house there. So he lived in the house. They had a family or this and that. And he wasn't that, and he didn't do what I feel my sister needed him. But he has really have learned from the learning of me and my sister, of what we forced him to learn from us, right, as adults. And I think you and Vaughn kind of share that same thing, that you may not know how to be a father, but because I'm a father, I didn't have you as a father, and it's a theory I have. When men who decide to become fathers, who fathers are around, they have some interaction with them, they then show their fathers how to be a father. They make them comfortable to be that, because the people before them didn't make them comfortable. And by being able to see your kid, and so it goes back to that theory that as fathers, we need our children, even to still teach us today. So both you and Vaughn have taught your fathers something that they didn't think they didn't maybe even know how to do. And because there's another man saying, because men listen to men, they listen to them, and there's no more better man you're gonna listen to than your own flesh and blood. You have proved my theory that listen, we can really change our fathers, because if you take an attitude as forget you, whatever, then we're not doing them any better than they did us. And nothing might, yeah.
I'm sorry for interjecting, but with Gaspar and Vaughn, when they show up in their father's presence, they don't see it's not so much a man. You say it's the man talking to man. I'm like, no, their father never see them really as a man before he see them as a son. Understand? And so when they show up in their father's presence, he don't see a man first. He see their son first. You understand? And then he sees the man second. And never the power of being his son is far greater and the power of being the man. And so what puts the man on that father is the fact that that man is his son, right, as opposed to that son being a man. Right. Does that make any sense? And so it puts a greater man.
Listen, put the bow on it. Put the bow. I mean, my mind like a mad scientist. So sometimes I need people to put the bow. Put the bow. Listen, bingo. There we go.
Right, when they walk in the room, I'm like, again, when your children walk in the room, they don't walk in the room as different than man and that woman. You will never see them as that. And guess what? Even if you wasn't involved, that the man of that child being your child and being in the knowledge of that always changed the trajectory of the environment and the room. And so every time they show up, there's a greater expectation of them showing up, far as that man or that father go, than anybody else. So they're gonna always have that light, that special treatment that always show up that they may not necessarily feel worthy of. And so remember, I told you we always putting demand on leaders, but I'm like, no, you need to put a demand on yourself as a follower. I think a great example of that is in the Bible is the relationship between was it Joshua? What's not Joshua? Elijah and Elisha. Great example. You understand? And Elijah, one of them as a follower, put a great demand on his leader. Like, listen, whether you want me to follow you or not. You feel what I'm saying? So that's I'm basically saying for Vaughn and Johnny, whether you want me to be your son or not, it is what it is. You understand what I'm saying? And so their follower, being followers and sons of that father, put a greater demand on that father to say, you know what? This man, they keep on showing up. They keep, guess what? Even if I wasn't a good father to them, they keep on being a good son to me. Yes, that's going to be very intimidating and in some cases very irritating. But I'm going to cut right there. Like, damn sure funny want to hear from Dr. Frank Gaines and 10E sitting over there being quiet. And I know y'all thinking a lot of stuff, so please get in here.
Well, listen, I'll say this before Dr. Gaines or 10E get on. Dr. Gaines be with his grandson more time. I think he trying to make up for something. I don't know or not.
Well, that's a great that's a great intro, Johnny. I'll say this: I think we are products of our environment. I'm a little older than you guys, so my father's a little older than your dad. My father was born in 1932, and he grew up in nothing, in the country, in the woods. He was a charismatic man. He was a handsome man. He was an intelligent man, and he had an opportunity to leave the woods and play professional baseball, or either go to the military. He had the chance to play with the Cincinnati Reds farm team. He got the hell out of there and went to Europe. So when they unleashed him from the war, he ended up in Newark, New Jersey, and I found out not long ago I got 3 sisters over there in Europe that I didn't know about. To give you an idea how how my dad was. So he when he got to Newark, and I came into the world, and he settled down on one front, but as far as this conversation, you're talking about having a conversation with your dad. That didn't exist, in my world. My father lived in the house with me and my sisters and my mother until I was 18 years old. When I went to college, when I walked out the door, he walked out the door. I was his one and only son, his namesake. Even though the time that he was there and he was in the house, my father loved women and women loved him. My father loved to drink and he drank. He worked and was provided for us, but that was it. If I wasn't doing something he wanted to do, then he and I weren't having any type of connection or conversation. That was that. And I was good with it because I was an introvert and a loner. We are products of our environment. I'm going to say that again because, we are, what separates us from other animals and lower mammals is we have an opposable thumb, and a power to choose. We can learn from examples or non-examples. And my father taught me many things. He taught me how to be a good father through non-examples, He taught me how to treat my wife from day to day through non-examples, because my earliest memory of my father was beating my mother. And that happened, on occasion until I was of size and age to prevent that, So that kind of was, how it was shaped. So when he left and I went to college, he forced my mother to sell the house where she had nothing. And then I went to college. Well, you can imagine how that shaped me when I came back at 3 years later, still in college, and let him know that I was getting married. He tells me, why would you want to do that when you can have 3 or 4 women? So the relationship was quite strained. We never really connected. We respected. And as his life began to decline because he ended up losing his job, or as his life declined, he, I think, wanted to connect more with me. But at that point, I had gone to college, got married, had a son, and had 4 kids by the time I was 30 years old. I'd been with my wife for 44 years. or 45 years, married for 42. And so we just had a different, our life's perspectives were different. And to Johnny's point, so no, the conversation with my dad, no, I learned by watching examples and non-examples. So Johnny talks about, I'm trying to make up for something with my grandson. Well, my grandson is one of 5 grandchildren. I got a 6th one on the way. My favorite people in the world are my grandchildren because I'm really good at being a grandfather. As a father, I was a wild, rambunctious, listen, I'm fairly adept academically, intellectually, and I'm worldly, but that don't translate into being a good father. That's an experience. That's something that comes with experience. And if you've had great examples, you'll learn faster. I didn't, but I began to understood how to do and how to have those type of conversations. And I am deeply involved and was deeply involved in every aspect of all my children's lives. I shaped and developed them and was involved in everything they did as people in their career, and even now, because I'm the problem solver. And so again, I have close relationships with them, and there's varying degrees of contentiousness from time to time. Anybody that knows me understand what I mean by that. But when I take all that and I package all that to being a grandfather, I'm on a whole other level now. And when I tell you, outside of my wife, my grandchildren, I don't include her in this, description, but my grandchildren are my favorite people in the world, and I am my grandchildren's favorite person. They prefer me over parents. And so conversations and time and doing that's my entire life right now. I work, I do my grandchildren, and outside of that, those rare occasions where I can be with the fraternity brothers and here with Fatherhood program, that's what I do. So yeah, I'm doing a pretty good job. I know I didn't have those conversations, but I've learned how to be open and connect with my grandchildren and especially with my 2 sons right now as I help them navigate the experiences of the world.
Amen. Thank you for correcting me on that, Brother Gaines. I appreciate that.
That wasn't a correction. That was just you don't know. You gotta come spend some time. You got the cliff notes.
You gotta come sit by the pool, huh?
I do.
What Johnny's referring to, I got a grandson, plays pretty high level basketball, and we travel all over the country. He's 16 and plays a 16 and under team on Under Armour. And I go everywhere with him. In fact, I'm going to Chicago on Thursday to close out the summer with him. So they haven't seen me this summer because all the time I'm sending them pictures from some other part of the country.
I'm telling you, he goes somewhere.
But yeah, I'll be back with him soon.
All right. No, but what Frank said as well, I learned a lot. I told my dad this one time. I said, you taught me by not being. I learned a lot from what you didn't do. And what I appreciated was he didn't take it negatively. He said, I understand. He said, you showed me what not to do when it comes to being a father, or what not to do when it comes to being a husband. Much like Frank said, but what was the term you used?
Non-examples.
Non-example.
Examples and non-examples. You got a choice.
And when we had the conversation, what I appreciated was that he didn't try to defend himself. He pretty much said, "You're right," and I got it. And I thank you for being comfortable enough to say that to me. And I think that's when we were able to form even a closer relationship, and now are able to talk openly with each other about different things and about life in general.
Yeah, don't use your father as don't use experiences and our fathers as excuses, because we got the power to choose. And we are highly intelligent human beings. We're thinking individuals. Okay, because my father beat my mother don't mean I beat my wife. Okay, because my father didn't connect with his kids doesn't mean I can't connect with mine. No excuses.
You know what? You and Frank, Dr. Frank, And Johnny Gaspar, y'all something else. Anyway,
Did he just call us a name?
but I can only think of one thing because I think it's one of the most profound things I ever heard in far as just being a person. When somebody said, I can't remember who the author was, but he said, a smart man learned from his mistakes, but a wise man learned from the mistakes of others. And so you guys epitomize that in your testimonies, and I just greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much. 10E, go ahead and crank up, baby, because I know you got a lot on your mind.
So I kind of identify with three of the brothers here: Frank, Brother Vaughn, Brother Johnny. My dad grew up in Mississippi and left when he was 18, a part of the northern migration up to Chicago, and married my mom and had me and my sister. And the deepest thing that my dad told me was after I had loaned a friend of mine my car and he totaled it. And this was after the fact. He said, "Son, there are three things you don't do. You don't loan out your money, your car, or your woman, in that order." That was the deepest thing my father ever said to me. And so, Brother Ron, I give a little validity to your theory in that, because my father was there all the time. My mom and dad never divorced, although they argued like they were going to divorce any minute. But I did not consider it overcompensating or overzealousness. That when I had my three kids, I mean, I poured into my kids, and I did it with intentionality, knowing in the back of my mind that that is not what I got. I got my daddy's presence, but I did not get any wisdom. I didn't get any the fatherly guidelines, the father, I didn't get any of that father stuff. So what it did was I said to myself, and I'm agreeing with you, Brother Frank, that I am going to choose not to be like my father from a parental perspective. So my kids, like Brother Johnny, they got me at every football game. They got me at every basketball game, every baseball game. I love the baseball seasons. We made it a habit that we would eat dinner together as a family. That was done every night intentionally. When the kids would go to summer camp, we would spend at least 2 or 3 hours with the kids telling us about summer camp, their experiences. And each one had to give their own story about what happened to them in particular at camp. And when one was finished, the other two had to listen until everybody had their turn. That's just how, how involved. I did man classes with my boys. I started them out at I believe it was 10 years old. 2 years, every weekend, we would have a man class, and it all led up to when they was 12 years old. And I modeled that after when Jesus was with the elders in the temple, and they were asking him questions, and he was confounding them, with their answers. I said, I'm going to do something with my kids when they turn 12. I got them certificates. I got them, I got a scripture put on a plaque for them so that when they graduated man class at 12 years old, that they had some semblance of what it would be like to be a godly man. So some might consider that overzealous or overcompensating. I didn't. And it was mainly because that's what I wish I had poured into me. And I'll tell you something, gentlemen, I believe this is a return on investment, because with the way my kids are supporting me through this transition, to me, this is a return on investment that I never thought, never even looked or dreamed that it would be happening. But my kids, they are supporting me. They got their daddy's back. They are involved in making sure I'm okay, making sure my mental health is okay, making sure my physical health is okay. And I'm like, man, do I even deserve this? But after hearing you guys' conversation and this topic, it literally is a return on investment, because I made sure that I poured into my kids as much as I could. The only I guess I'm not even sure what to call it, but because of my dad's non-involvement, wisdom-wise, verbal-wise, I think the only thing that it did was I would consider myself stunted, if you will, in certain emotional aspects that I am just now learning at 64 years old, trying to deal with on my own, because I didn't have a fatherly dialogue to be able to process emotions. When I got mad at home as a kid, I was mad all by myself. When I was upset, I was upset all by myself. There was nobody to help me regulate any emotions. When my girlfriend broke up with me, I did that all by myself. There was a lot of things that I had to do all by myself because there was no input. And so that's the only thing that I would say is a causality of non-involvement, having your father non-involved. But other than that, I think your theory is correct, Ron, that sometimes we end up having to show our dads that we can be men in spite of your non-involvement. So anyway, that's all.
And I you know what, and I'm so glad, because I like to always debunk this myth that people have, this idea that, oh, if the father's in the house, everything is good. And we have a lot of fathers who will say, well, I'm with my kids, and so my kids gonna be good. And they are just sometimes they end up being the same fathers too later on in life. And I remember we had a young brother who used to be a part of the program, and he used to say his dad lived in the house, his dad took care of them, but he never felt connected to his dad. He felt like none of the kids probably ever felt, but his dad was there every day. And if you ask his dad, he would profess that he gave his kids everything they needed, the way they was. And that young man always reminded me that that's why he was so laser focused on his involvement with his daughter the way he was, because he, again, it is a residual, as I like to say, of what we get. Either we take it on and say, this is what we're going to give, or we say, I want to get something else, so I'm going to give something else, because that's what I think is better deserved. So it's a really good, it's a real good mix. And I know that a lot of times we let the static outside determine our conversations, because that's one of the biggest things. If the father in the house, what y'all talking about? We just don't talking about deadbeat dads who not in the house. But a lot of sometimes those dads, right? And I've been shown this, dads outside the house who want to be involved are sometimes way more involved, because their opportunity time is more. The time they have, they don't get to spend a lot of time with the kids, but when they is with them, as long as they don't take them to their grandma's house and leave them at the grandma's house, if they with them, they have to spend more time talking to them, dealing with a lot of things that the parents don't, because they coming to get them on weekends. They weekend dad, and the kid gonna talk to dad, and dad gotta kind of talk to him about whatever, and you getting to get in contact, the kind of engagement that you don't get when you live in a house because you see them every day. I was talking to this with my partner that it's difficult at some point to give you everything you need from me when I see you every day, because I'm used to being a person to say, oh, I gotta make this a focus because when we was used to just see each other on weekends, I would do it. Oh man, it'd be like the world's greatest 3 days. The world's greatest 3 days of everything. And now you see me for 7 days a week. It's not gonna be them same. It's gonna not be that same thing because I feel like, hey, you see me every day. You seeing me. Hey, we went to bed. We woke up. Type of business. So
Ron,
yeah.
But it's different. It's a difference between the fantasy dad and the foundational dad, right? Mm-hmm. The dad you see every day is the foundational dad. The fantasy dad is the one we don't see every day. And so we fill in those gaps, right? We see him on the weekend. And so let's say we see him Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We allow fantasy to fill in Monday through Thursday. You see how that works? And so it almost makes him perfect. And it's almost impossible to compete against the fantasy dad as it is the foundational dad. The foundational dad is there so you get to see his good, his bad, and indifference. Mm-hmm. And so now because he's there so much and he's available so much, he's accessible so much, you get options that a child that don't have a dad or have limitations that their dad don't get. And so most of the time, the kid that with the limitations, limitational access to his dad gets to fill those, remember I told you, those gaps with those fantasies. And then being a foundational dad, it's hard to compete against that fantasy dad because as a foundational dad, I got to make you go to bed on time. I got to give you stuff that you don't want or you don't want to hear. That's going to make me unpopular. Right. The fantasy dad gets you on the weekend, so he give you all that weekend discipline. As the foundational dad, he get to see you Monday through Thursday, so he got to give you all that foundational discipline that you need. That's not going to be popular as it is as the fantasy dad or the weekend dad. And so I think the true character of a dad, or any father for that matter, or any man for that matter, is when the children naturally, because they normally do, try to play the dad against the mom. And so they may say something about the mom that may be in your favor as a man. You understand? How you handle that response will determine the character of that particular man. And you got children that will try to play fathers against mothers, mothers against fathers. And because my dad, I think he dropped the ball on the response because it was something happened with my mom. My dad was always doing better than my mom until she met my stepdad. But other than that, he was always doing better than my mom. And I think one day he just said something out of whack or whatever the case may be. I'm about 13, 14 years old. And so I caught it. And so I'm like, hey, man, that's my mom. You my dad. I'm like, hey, hell, you don't get to say that. and he said something about my mom. And it's amazing, at 14 years old, I took a man's stance against my own dad. That I don't think he had that privilege. And he used a privilege and a liberty that he shouldn't really have used. I'm like, you could have kept it to yourself. But he said it anyway, and he didn't want to back down from it. And so I told him, I said, listen, if you're going to say that and you're not going to retract what you just said, back to your point about being challenging, Johnny, I was very challenging to my dad. I loved him, but I was always engaging with him. And I'm like, if you don't take back what you said, man, we ain't got to talk. And as a result, when I got back on that plane, we ain't talking 2 years. And so I had to prove, I'm like, you're a man, but I'm getting ready to grow into a man. And guess what? I mean what I say, even at 14. And so when we met, of course, after 2 years, we met back up. And I love him because he gave me some advice just indirectly. Because he knew I was always engaging, which is like you, Johnny, always engaging. But he told me one day, just being my father, because remember, he's still your father. That wisdom is just innate. It's going to happen. And he told me, he said, son, you got to pick your battles. That's all he told me. He said, son, just pick your battles. And he didn't argue with me. He didn't explain what that meant. But instinctively, I think I knew what that meant. Fast forward 20 years later, I'm on one of the biggest talk shows on television, and they had my back against the wall. Literally, they had me. I mean, I knew the audience hated me, and I didn't give a damn. But they had my back against the wall because I told my son, just told him like, listen, don't let them lights, don't let them cameras fool you. Just say what you know what you're gonna say, and keep your talking to a limitation. If you don't know you don't think about what you're gonna say before you say it, then they're gonna catch you up. I'll be damned if he didn't let his ass go hit his mouth. So now he says something that's out of whack, and now my back against the wall. And my response was what my dad said 20 years earlier. And that response, the host of that show used the response to close the show. That's how powerful it was. He said one thing. And sometimes that's how powerful a dad is. And so as a son, you need to, and you should demand to draw that one thing that's going to take you for the rest of your life to create that legacy that y'all is.
Good point, my brother. Good point.
But sound like terrible grammar, but whatever it is, you get it.
I think that, as we went around the table tonight, I hope that the people who are watching, the people who are listening, the people who watch this and they see it, share it with somebody, because this is vital. Because what I'm learning right now is that there are generations of not just men but women who are children who are looking to have some moment with their fathers, right? They're looking for the opportunity to maybe, go back down memory lane of their childhood, right? And you don't have to go back down. I think Lightborn said this. You don't have to go back down memory lane because you're still their child. You can be their child and be an adult, but that means that gives you more knowledge of how to maneuver the relationship. Before, your responsibility as a child was your parents had to maneuver. And this point now, when you're the child who's an adult who may be more educated, because they might have sacrificed for you to be more educated. They may have pushed you to be more educated. They may have pushed you to be more inquiring. They may have pushed you, good or bad, whatever way you got to where you're at, you now have to initiate that. And I know that people say, I ain't got time to worry about them. I'm worried about my children. But I will say, and I will stay steadfast. You can only do so much for your children if you have a full, clear conscience of understanding of your parents. Because you can think, because it's gonna come back. It's gonna come back. Listen, whatever your parents' flaws are things that they have, if you don't learn from them, because you have the opportunity to, they're there.
Yeah.
They can tell you, what is their fear, what mistakes they made, how they messed up things, and it's not a blame game, but it's a moment to receive information for how you can move on and pass that vital information and give your kids the cheat sheet. Because we can give them a cheat sheet as their parents.
Yeah.
But we can give them their granddaddy cheat sheet. Right. They got double cheat sheet. And God forbid, if you can obviously get the great granddaddy, then you about to give them the power that that no one can stop them. And I say that because we see this very often with our mothers. We can go and look and see 3 generations of a child having their mom, their mom, their grandma, their great grandma, and if they lucky, the great great grandma there, and that they pour that into that kid, into those kids, and what needs to happen. And it's good to get some point of the man point of view, the father point of view, some of that poured in to the kids as well. So I say to people who may be listening, make sure you like, share, subscribe. We're looking to, get up. As a friend of mine here says, and I'm gonna use it. Let me just shout out to Box 29. We would love to get a Plaquentin. but that takes for you to keep on hitting the tapping on the like button and share button. So there's a guy here in Philly who has a show that I watch all the time, and he calling that term placating. But more of anything, we want you to hear this and be able to share with other people, because this is benefit. Listen, I can say right now, without a doubt, man, my eyes kind of a little bit watery. My heart normally is going a little pity patty. Is at a slow turn, because I feel so good about the conversation and hearing these men, these fathers talk about their fathers, talking about how the positivity that we just don't see in social media, the positivity that we just don't see in our community, the positivity of positive father images, even out of negative ones, right? So here's the negative that now is the positive. And it can't be disputed because we have the evidence. You got Brother Gaspar got 2 graduated adult children who on their way to the top.
They sure are.
We got Tenny, who got kids who, one of them probably about to be a mega superstar soon. He gonna get that one more. He gonna get that one more gig.
That's all he needs.
Put him on, get him an Oscar. Get him that Oscar. Get him that Academy Award. We got Vaughn, who's still building the kids up. Still building the kids up, and they about to tempt that teenage year, but they going in there with the kind of knowledge and the strength to say that you love to hear kids say, "Oh, don't say that to me," because I think about this movie. It's about a young girl who made her brother died, and she turned him into a monster. She was making a monster, and I forget who the dad was, but the dad came to the school because the girl had an issue, and she knew her dad had her back, because her mom had passed away, and she knew her dad came, and her dad told the teacher, you know, this, that, and the other, and you could tell that, and that's what the young people need, to know that not just their mom got their back, but their dad coming to get their back, because it changes the dynamic. I mean, you got Dr. Gaines, a man who has what you call those kind of families, a dynasty family over there. You know, we got a dynasty family. And the example, and I want to say this, the example that we sometimes push against, but is a true patriarchy done in the positive aspect that a lot of people don't really acknowledge. Now, I talk all the time, most of the families in the Black community are matriarchies because the moms run them. Yeah. But here's an example of this true patriarchy where you have the dad, the mom, the 4 kids, their grandkids, and soon their grandkids gonna be having kids, and you see like the olden time, the generation, they live in that big, let me not say where they live. They live in that big house over where they live at in, and you come there, sit by the pool, and have barbecue and eat cupcakes and all that stuff. When you go out there to the big mansion,
have a glass of Basil Hayden.
Right, exactly. TVs everywhere. You know, this is the kind of place. This is the
model.
But this is the model that. And I remember, I remember a long time ago, Ed, you said this, and I have always thought about it, and it came out to be 100% right as I think about it. And this is why I love this. Ed, you said my favorite show was The Good Times, right? And I said because it showed us a family in this image. But I listened to you way back then when you said you didn't like that because it was the image that it shown, and that wasn't the true image of what our families was. And I've kept that, Ed. I've kept that because today, as the man that I watch and the things I observe, that's true. You see that they would like to keep us in that imagery, when really the imagery is the Frank Gaines family, right? You know, this is the same. But why we got to be over there? Because it was suitable and comfortable for the people who was going to watch. But that's not the reality for who we were as people. We know that now. We see that. And so I again, and I'm only saying, I'm talking and saying these things, sound like I'm rambling, but I'm just going through everybody's conversation. I'm bringing that up because that is the kind of conversation that we've had at the Fatherhood Think Tank. and that's how it sticks to you when you hear it.
Hey Ron, I want to also give a shout out and give the background on Travis.
Well, I was coming to Travis, but
I was about to say,
no, I'm gonna give it because I know him.
Okay.
And I remember being out there, being his advocate in the communities, particularly in the Miami, Liberty City, Little Haiti, Brown Sub communities, Miami Gardens. Being out there in the height of gang warfare, our youth being killed and all that other stuff like that, and being tired, if that make any sense. So I remember, I mean, you wouldn't know I was tired because the energy I give to it, but being tired secretly. And then this guy show up, Travis, and he's everything I used to be. I wouldn't have said that at that time because again, you don't want to let people know you tired. You understand? But sometimes Superman get tired, and so watching him become another Superman, or if I was Batman, watching him become Robin, you understand? And not really saying too much about it, but just being a fan of his work. You understand? And always encouraging him and just showing up because I didn't say too much. I may have showed up a lot, but I wouldn't say too much. And usually I would use my presence to really say what I need to say, if that makes any sense. And so I never said a lot to him. I just used my presence to really say what I really meant because sometimes I just didn't have the words. And so to watch him take that and turn that into something just spectacular and do it bigger than I did it is a great compliment and to let him know that, listen, man, you my hero. You understand? And sometimes the hero gotta let him know, like, listen, you're my hero now because heroes need heroes. And so I would let Travis know that you my hero, and that's what I would say to you if I'd never said it to you now. So I would give him a compliment. And he's a married man. I mean, at his age, being a nice looking guy, he could have been out there doing what I did, but he understand he chose to do it another way, do it better than I did it. And I'm inspired by that as well because his family, and the way he treats his family and the way he is to his wife and his children, even makes me a mentor. You understand? Put me in a mentor position as supposed to be.
You gonna let him tell it? You let him tell it.
Well, go ahead, Travis. Tell it. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Johnny.
I appreciate that though, Blackburn.
I really appreciate the honor. I must say, Lionel Lightburn has been one of my mentors for a while, and continue to support in everything I do. I mean, it's an honor. Honestly, guys, I sit here and I listen to every last one of you all. It's an honor just to listen to, just to have that ear to be able to want to hear. And I think that's the biggest thing that I have when it comes down to just listening. A lot of young people don't really listen like that. And like as I was doing my exercise today in my summer leadership camp, I was doing telephone. And the sadness and the results of the telephone situation is that even though you say what you're saying, everybody interprets what they hear in their own way. So as I sit here and I listen to every last one of you all, I take nuggets from everything that you're saying, and I'm at all. Like I just sit back and I just take that moment just to, like, I appreciate every last one of you just taking this moment and this time. I mean, we've been on this thing almost 2 hours, and every second, every minute, every hour that we're here and we're just talking, it may seem like okay, we just talking, but you're it's like I'm listening to you speak into other people's lives, and and you're speaking into my life, like just listening to the accomplishments that you're making, and I want to continue to build that relationship. I'm here, and I'm just honored, though. That's all I can say.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Brother Travis. And we know you're a great daddy because Lionel wouldn't have talked about you if you wasn't a great father. So we know that. But again, man, Ron, this topic, like I said, when I saw it, I said, I got to get on here at some point tonight to tell my story, because that conversation that I had with my dad, like I said, it was life-changing for us. And I think it allowed me to be more of a son to him now than I was when I was a kid. So with that being said, man, LeRon, you know how I normally wrap it up. Back to your topic.
Well, I mean, I'm and listen. I went around. Listen, I did my thing that I do as a facilitator there. I went around and touched everybody. You know, make sure we recap what everybody said tonight. I definitely want to acknowledge the people I know that's watching out there. We got our good friend who said this was a great topic tonight. Rohan said a great topic. We had some. I want to just shout out Kenny Jones who's watching. Ken Thornton, Kenneth Thornton that was watching. Thurston, I'm sorry, not Thornton. Thurston that was watching tonight, and Julius LaRosa, my homeboy, who definitely I know this topic is one big for him as well. And I know he's going to listen to if he just watching on. We had somebody come on. I don't know if they just want to just get one word in before we close out. You got opportunity, brother. Okay, you just wanted to come and sit in the room. Right? That's fine.
Well, you got to acknowledge you talk about V.
That's what I was asking. Did you want to say something before we? I know I already checked you. I know you're legit, so I checked you already. So that's why I let you come in. But it's okay. You probably just wanted to. Sometimes people just want to. Listen, we ain't gonna have none of the funny business like we have folk. And I'm validating people as they come in here. They gotta be checked out. You're not gonna come on here and try to ruin our good time with foolishness. But anyway, with that being said, again, I want to thank you guys tonight, man, because the night was if people didn't get, they got true, real life stories of fathers having conversations with their fathers having conversations with their children, and vice versa, and next generations. This is the kind of content that I'm excited that we're making, the kind of changes and the kind of things we're doing. Hopefully, for people who are out there who are listening, you have a variety of voices, not just to talk about this and that. And we can't, and none of this could be possible without our good sponsor, JAG Attorney at Law, Miami-Dade, Broward, West Palm Beach. Without the JAG Attorney at Law, Johnny A. Gasper, Esquire. If you need to get in contact with him, there's the contact information. J.Gaspar at jag1law.com. The phone number 305-827-8087. And if you need to go to the website to see what type of law services he provides and you just want to check them out, just hit the website. It's www.jag1law.com. And Johnny is a proud sponsor of the Fatherhood Think Tank, and we're a proud sponsor of JAG Law. And we're a proud sponsor of all the fathers in their program. So again, Travis, if you get me the advertisement, documentation, we'll put it up. We want to, as much as possible, as you support the show, we want to make sure we support you and what you have to do, because what the work that you're doing here, if people come, I know you'll be. Well, I used to have this thing, each one teach one, but I think now there's a better. It's called isomorphic connection. So if I bring something to a platform in my therapeutic work, you can't do anything but do the same thing. It's very difficult for you not to do what you have been experienced. So that's that, and as much as possible, I try to bring the orthomorphic platform of fatherhood. So to advocate. Yes.
I want to also expound on. We're gonna have to do a show just based around on Johnny alone, because Johnny, I think Johnny. Well, we're gonna have to do it because Johnny. I'm gonna tell you why. Johnny offers a service that most of us don't take advantage of, right? And so I'm not sure if you deal in trust. You know, I'm talking about family trust and
yes.
Okay, so you deal in that, correct? And so when we start to talk about that kind of stuff that that stop your family from killing each other after you're gone. Johnny actually deals in kind of setting up structures and setting up not only just financial structures, but just what your will is for your family. Because you know your children. You know who's smart, you know who's greedy, you know who's whatever. You understand? So when you know that then you want to go through Johnny to set up different things so at your funeral, your family will be more united and divided. And he can set it up where you can literally manage things from the grave. You understand? And so I think we have to get in depth in what it is that Johnny actually offer and let people know that it is available, because you can go and get somebody from another whatever, you understand, that don't have that type of cultural competency, right? Cultural competency when it comes to who you are and what you need, and will fail you at every letter of the law. And so Johnny offer a very great service, and I think we all should take advantage of that at some point in our life.
Well, I think you said it right. Like, boy, Johnny, you gotta just get me the information. We'll put that, if we need to do it 2 shows, put together how fathers can start a fatherhood trust for their family, what fathers need to be thinking about, what they can do and how they can do it. Those are the kind of educational things outside of a conversation that we definitely can provide for the fathers and people in our, because every bit of what we can provide helps, and I think that is a great part. So Johnny, just think about, it'll be maybe a 2 parts. So think about when your schedule is flex, how much more flex that you got. I know you already bending left, right. Hopefully you ain't bending over too much, but
we had to go there, dog. You could have left that alone.
But I want you to be able to stand straight up, because I know they got you over the coals at all these different spots. So I mean, I don't want to add to the fire.
No, great suggestion.
No offense, Vaughn. Well, we just having some fun, but it's time to go. Listen, we have our fun afterwards. Not on y'all time of the Fatherhood Think Tank, but also I think that's another part of why we're here. We're not just guys that get together who just talk and carry on. We are brothers, we are friends, and I really believe this, that our friendships. Take a thing from the fraternity. Our friendships is essential to our souls. And I think we see that very often when we come here and join together. So that's why it's so, and I get excited when I see you guys, because I know I'm going to hear something different. I'm going to experience something different, and I hope that is reciprocal among everybody here. With that being said, fathers, repeat after me. I am. I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of respect.
I am a man of respect.
Fathers, I say that I am. I say that you are.
That you are.
I say that we are.
That we are.
Championship fathers. As we do that as championship fathers, we make sure we hold our children on our arms and our families on our back, and we keep our brothers in our heart, and always there to support them in any way that we can. With that being said, we'll be here again next week. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for it not being robbery to be here at the Fatherhood Think Tank and being able to share your experience as father and through fatherhood. And that being said, we'll see you all here again next week. Fatherhood Think Tank, same time, same channel, same people. Hopefully some more people. With that being said, good night.
Have a good night.
Night.